Okay, I have to be honest with you. When I first opened the research folder for today's deep dive and saw the title, I almost closed my laptop. Vibe coding.
It does trigger a bit of a visceral reaction, doesn't it?
It sounds like something a teenager would say to explain why they haven't finished their homework. Don't worry, Mom, I'm just vibe coding right now.
It has that lo-fi beats to relax to meets a hackathon kind of feel.
Exactly. I was expecting a trend piece on Gen Z slang in the workplace, but then I actually started reading the reports, this one landscape analysis on IT for early 2026, and I realized my cringe radar was totally miscalibrated.
Hmm.
This isn't about slang at all. It's actually describing a pretty fundamental collapse in how we build software.
Collapse is a strong word, but honestly, looking at the data we have here, it kind of fits. We're looking at a slow-motion collision between what businesses are demanding and what IT departments can physically deliver.
So let's set the scene for you because the context here is just vital. We're in 2026. The AI boom isn't coming anymore. It's the water we're all swimming in. But the data shows that instead of making IT's life easier, it's actually drowning them.
That is the great paradox of the last 2 years. Everyone sort of assumed AI tools would just clear the backlog instantly, but the source material highlights a pretty stark reality. In 2025, IT project requests, they didn't stabilize. They jumped by 18%.
So demand is just skyrocketing.
Right. But here's the statistic that should, essentially keep every CIO up at night. Nearly 1 in 3 of those projects, 29% to be precise, missed their deadlines.
That is a massive, massive failure rate. I mean, imagine if an airline missed 29% of its landings.
We wouldn't be flying. And you have to understand the human cost behind that number. That 29% isn't just software being late.
No.
That represents teams working weekends, burnout spiking to critical levels, and this massive friction layer between the business side, who wants new AI tools yesterday, and the technical side, who are screaming, we physically cannot move any faster.
And usually the corporate answer to that is just work harder, right? Or the classic, just hire more engineers.
Which is a math problem you just can't solve. The report is very clear on this. Even if you had the budget, the unicorn developers, those full-stack wizards who know legacy systems and modern AI architecture, they effectively don't exist in the numbers we need.
You can't hire your way out of the hole.
Not this one.
So that brings us to the mission of today's deep dive. We are not just talking about a cool new tech buzzword. We are asking really a survival question. How do we close this gap between the software we need and the people available to build it? Because the research argues the answer isn't more hours, it's vibe coding.
Correct. It's a complete shift in the, I guess you'd call it the operating model.
So let's get past the name. What is vibe coding, technically speaking? Because I assume it's more than just, wishing really hard for an app to exist.
At its core, vibe coding is the transition from syntax to intent. In the traditional model, the model we've used for 40 years, if you wanted a computer to do something, you had to speak the computer's language.
You had to know Python, Java, SQL, all of it.
Exactly. You had to worry about semicolons, memory management, API keys.
Which effectively locks out, 99% of the company from building anything?
It does. Vibe coding flips that. The user describes the intent, the vibe of the solution in natural language. Then an agentic AI system takes that intent, reasons through the necessary steps, and executes the code to make it happen.
Okay, I want to pause on that term agentic AI. We hear AI thrown around constantly. How is this different from me just going to ChatGPT and asking it to write me a Python script?
That is the million-dollar distinction. And if you take one thing away from this episode, let it be this. A chatbot gives you text. It might give you a block of code, but you still have to copy it, run it, debug it, and deploy it.
You're still the engine.
You are. An agent has hands. It has permission to access systems, run commands, verify its own work, and, retry if it fails. A chatbot talks about work. An agent does the work.
That's a huge difference.
It is. And this connects to an analogy in the source material that I really loved. They compared the current IT workforce to a combustion engine.
Yeah, let's break that down. I'm a car guy, so this clicked for me immediately.
So if you have a standard engine, that's your current IT team, and you want the car to go faster, the old way was get a bigger engine, hire more people.
Which we already established is pretty much impossible.
Right. But vibe coding is like bolting a supercharger onto the engine you already have. You aren't replacing the team. You're forcing high-pressure air into the intake to get this massive power output from the same block.
And in this analogy, the high-pressure air is the domain knowledge of your non-technical staff, the people in HR, in ops.
Exactly. This is the aha moment. Every company has people in HR, in operations, in marketing who know exactly how the business should run. They know the workflows, they know the pain points, they know where the bodies are buried.
But they've been locked out of building solutions because they don't know C++ here.
Precisely. Vibe coding unlocks that talent pool. The barrier to entry shifts from coding skill to communication skill. If you can describe the process, you can build the tool.
That is a massive democratization of power. But I want to make this tangible for you, because describing intent can still sound a little abstract, almost like magic.
Sure.
The source broke this down by comparing the old way versus the new way. And I think anyone who works in a large company is going to feel this in their bones.
Oh, the portal of doom.
The portal of doom. We've all been there.
It's the standard IT interaction model. You have a problem. You go to a dedicated portal. You navigate some drop-down menu that never quite matches your issue.
Yeah.
You fill out a static form with 10 fields, and then just silence.
You submit it into the void. And from the IT side, it's just as bad, right? You get a ticket that says computer broken and nothing else.
High friction, low context. A misery for everyone involved. Now compare that to the agentic AI approach. There is no portal. The interface is just the chat app you're already in Slack, Teams, whatever.
Okay, so walk me through the incident response example from the report. Let's say I'm an employee and my laptop starts acting up. What happens in this vibe coding world?
So you just message the agent. Hey, my video calls are freezing every time I try to screen share. That's it. That's the vibe.
And the agent doesn't just reply, have you tried restarting?
No. Because it's an agent, it immediately starts an investigation. It pulls your device logs. It checks network latency. But here's the technical leap that the report highlights. It references a dynamic CMDB.
Okay, stop there. Dynamic CMDB. That's a configuration management database. What does that actually mean for the layman?
So for those who aren't in infrastructure, the CMDB is basically the map of every piece of hardware and software the company owns. Usually these are static lists that are outdated the moment they're built.
Like using a map from 1995 to navigate a city today?
Pretty much. But the AI is mapping this in real time. So it sees, okay, this user is on a specific version of the OS, and I see a pattern of 3 other users with this exact same update experiencing memory leaks during video calls.
So it's playing detective before a human ever even touches the ticket.
It's essentially building a dossier. So if it can fix it automatically, say by rolling back a driver, it just does it. If it can't, it hands the ticket to a human engineer, but it hands it over with the diagnosis already complete.
Here's the root cause, here's the asset, here's the fix.
Exactly. It cuts out that game of 20 questions that usually takes up the first 4 hours of any support ticket. We're talking about slashing MTTR mean time to repair by huge percentages.
That's the fixing side. But the report also touched on building. The onboarding example really struck me because that is the classic death by 1,000 cuts process in every company.
It is the ultimate coordination tax. Think about it. You're a hiring manager. To get a new employee set up, you're probably sending emails to 4 different departments. IT for the laptop, facilities for the badge, security for permissions, HR for payroll.
And if you forget one email, or if one person misses a notification, the new guy sits in the lobby for 6 hours on his first day staring at the wall.
We have all seen that happen. Now, apply vibe coding. The hiring manager, the domain expert, just tells the agent, I'm hiring a senior data analyst starting next Monday. They need the standard analytics bundle.
And the agent knows what standard analytics bundle implies.
It infers the intent and it maps the dependencies. It knows, okay, data analyst means they need a high RAM laptop, a Snowflake account, Tableau access. But it also knows the logic. I can't create the Tableau account until the email address is active.
So it sequences the work automatically.
It orchestrates the entire sequence. It pings IT for the hardware, triggers the account creation scripts, schedules the badge printing.
All without the hiring manager writing a single line of code or dragging boxes on some complicated flowchart.
That's the key. The hiring manager defines the what, the AI handles the how.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here. I can hear the engineers listening to this, and they are probably screaming at their speakers right now. If the marketing manager is building workflows and the AI is fixing the laptops, are we vibe coding the developers out of a job?
It's the fear everyone has. If the AI can code, why do you need me? But the report is very explicit about this, and I tend to agree with their conclusion. No, developers do not disappear.
Okay, but their job has to change. You can't tell me their day-to-day looks the same.
Oh, absolutely not. The nature of technical work shifts up the stack. Think about how much time a typical developer spends on keeping the lights on.
Right. Maintenance.
Resetting servers, fixing minor bugs, Building basic CR root apps, you know, create, read, update, delete forms, that is drudgery.
So vibe coding automates the drudgery.
It automates the maintenance and the basic assembly. This frees up the engineers to do what humans are actually good at: architecture, system design, complex problem solving.
So instead of being the mechanic changing the oil, they become the engineer designing the next generation of the engine.
That is a perfect way to put it. We're moving from a world where we pay developers to type syntax to a world where we pay them to design resilient systems.
It seems like this also solves the bus factor issue the report mentioned, which I've always thought was a morbid name for a metric, by the way.
It is morbid, but it's accurate. The bus factor is the idea that if one key person gets hit by a bus, the whole project fails.
Right.
In many companies, knowledge is so siloed. Only Dave knows how the billing API works. If Dave leaves or retires or, God forbid, gets hit by a bus, you are in serious trouble.
But if the code is just natural language intent and clear architectural maps,
Then the knowledge is democratized. The capability to build and maintain isn't locked inside the head of a unicorn. It makes the whole organization much more robust.
Okay, so far this sounds incredibly positive. We've got supercharged teams, no more portals of doom, developers doing high-value work, but I'm sensing the inevitable but.
There's always a but.
We have to do the reality check. Because giving everyone the ability to deploy software just by talking to a bot, that sounds like a recipe for chaos if it's not handled right.
It absolutely can be. And the report brings in this fascinating analogy here from an industry analyst, Vernon Keenan. He compares large language models, the brains behind this, to a nuclear power plant.
A nuclear power plant. Okay, that implies massive energy, but also massive risk.
Exactly. An LLM provides raw, unbridled cognitive energy. It can generate text, code, ideas at an infinite scale. But, and this is the crucial part, you cannot plug your toaster directly into a nuclear reactor.
It would melt the toaster and probably burn down the house.
Right. To use that power safely, you need a grid. You need transformers, substations, circuit breakers. Keenan calls this the orchestration grid.
So in the context of vibe coding, what is the grid? What stops the AI from hallucinating a code update that, I don't know, deletes the customer database?
That is the danger. You have to remember, LLMs are probabilistic. They're just guessing the next best word. They don't know truth in the way a database does.
Right.
If you let an LLM loose on your infrastructure without guardrails, it will confidently hallucinate a disaster.
So how do you build the grid? How do you make this safe?
The strategy outlined in the source is called vibe but check.
Vibe but check. It's catchy.
It is. It means you use the AI for the creative heavy lifting, drafting the workflow, suggesting the code, but you wrap it in what they call deterministic control layers.
Define deterministic for us in this context, because that's a heavy word.
Deterministic means logic that is 100% predictable, code that says if X, then Y, with no room for interpretation or hallucination. You need hard-coded safety checks.
Okay, so give me an example.
So the AI can propose a change to the firewall, but a hard-coded deterministic rule says no firewall changes can be applied without a human approval token.
The AI is the gas pedal, but the hard code is the brakes.
And the steering wheel. The report also mentions auditable execution traces. This is vital for compliance. You need to be able to look back and see exactly why the agent made a certain decision.
It can't just be a black box.
Never. If the agent grants someone access to sensitive data, there needs to be a log that says, I did this because the hiring manager requested it and the security protocol number 452 allowed it.
So oddly enough, this new world of everyone is a builder actually requires stronger governance than we have now.
100%. We are moving from a world where specialists build everything to a world where specialists govern the architecture while everyone else builds. The role of IT shifts from builder to town planner.
That's a great way to put it.
They lay the roads, they set the speed limits, they build the grid so that the business users can drive fast without crashing.
That is a fundamental shift in the identity of an IT department. You're going from the people who turn the wrenches to the people who design the factory.
It is. And the stakes for getting this wrong are high, but the stakes for ignoring it are even higher.
How so?
Well, look at the alternative. You can wait. You can say, this vibe coding thing feels too risky. We'll just stick to the old way. But we already established the old way is failing.
Right. You're already missing 29% of your deadlines.
Your backlog is growing. Your team is burning out. So standing still is actually falling behind.
Faster than ever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The organizations that figure out this orchestration grid, the ones that give their HR and ops teams the keys to the supercharger while keeping the safety rails on, they're going to move at a speed that traditional companies simply cannot match.
They'll be iterating on their business processes daily while the old guard is still waiting for a ticket to be assigned.
It's a whole new ball game.
It sounds like we are entering a period of very messy but very necessary transition.
Innovation is always messy, but the destination, a world where the barrier to building solutions is just your ability to describe them, is worth the turbulence.
It brings me to a final thought I wanted to throw at you. If the barrier to building software is just natural language, what happens to the definition of a technical employee?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Right. Today, we have IT and we have the business. They sit in different parts of the building, they speak different languages. But in 5 years, if the marketing manager is building their own apps via vibe coding, are they technical?
I think the distinction just evaporates. We might stop talking about developers versus users and just start talking about creators. Everyone becomes a builder.
The tools just adapt to the user rather than the user adapting to the tools?
It's a fascinating future.
Sure.
A little scary, maybe, but fascinating.
It's an exciting time to be watching this space. So for everyone listening, take a look at your own backlog today. Look at that one process that's been broken for 6 months that IT hasn't had time to fix.
We all have one.
And ask yourself, if I could just describe the solution, could I build it myself?
You probably could.
Thanks for deep diving with us. We'll catch you on the next one.